My house has more cameras than a Vegas casino. Too bad I never pointed them at my own marriage. The thought hit me as I stood in my own driveway, staring at the unfamiliar truck parked where I usually put my car. A lifted Ford F-250, chrome bumpers gleaming, truck nuts hanging from the hitch. Classy. I'm Rylan Ventor, and I install security systems for people who have something to protect. Ironic, considering I apparently needed protection from the people living under my own roof. The business trip to Austin was supposed to last 3 days. I finished early, drove the 4 hours back to suburban Dallas, and now I'm looking at this monument to masculine insecurity blocking my garage. Through the kitchen window, I could see movement. Warm light, the kind that makes a house look like a home in real estate photos. My home. My light bill. I grabbed my laptop bag and walked to the front door. My own front door. The smart lock recognized my phone and clicked open with a cheerful beep. "Honey, I'm home," I called out, keeping my voice light. The conversation in the kitchen stopped. Complete silence, like someone had hit a mute button on my life. I walked through the foyer, past the family photos that suddenly felt like evidence of a crime I didn't know I'd committed. Wedding pictures, vacation shots, all those moments when I thought I knew what my life was. The kitchen came into view, and there they were. My wife Kalia sitting at our dining table, looking like she'd seen a ghost. Across from her sat a man I recognized but had never invited into my home, Brent Marrow, her ex-boyfriend from college. The one she always said was, "Just a friend now." Brent had made himself comfortable. My bourbon sat open on the counter, 2 glasses on the table. He'd taken his boots off, for crying out loud. His socked feet were propped up on my chair like he owned the place. "Rylan!" Kalia jumped up, her smile too bright, too quick. "You're back early. I thought you said Thursday." "Tuesday," I said, setting my bag down carefully. "I said Tuesday night. It's Tuesday night." Brent didn't move. He leaned back in my chair at the head of my table, and raised his glass in a mock toast. "Hey there, Rylan. Hope you don't mind me borrowing your bourbon. Kalia said you wouldn't care." I looked at my wife. She was wearing the blue dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. Her hair was done, makeup perfect. For a casual Tuesday night dinner with an old friend, she'd certainly dressed up. "Of course not," I said. "What's mine is yours, apparently." Kalia's smile flickered. She knew that tone. "Brent was just telling me about his new gym," she said, her voice pitched too high. "He's expanding, opening a second location." Fascinating. I walked to the counter, noting the empty takeout containers. Chinese food from Golden Dragon, our usual spot. Our anniversary spot, actually. "I see you've already eaten." "We weren't sure when you'd be back," Kalia said quickly. "There's plenty left. I can heat some up for you." I opened the refrigerator, pretending to look for something. The reflection in the stainless steel door showed me Brent and Kalia exchanging glances. Quick, guilty glances. "Don't worry about it," I said, closing the fridge. "I ate on the road." That was a lie. I hadn't eaten since breakfast, but suddenly I wasn't hungry. I was something else entirely. The kitchen felt smaller with Brent in it. He was a big guy, all shoulders and swagger, the kind of man who took up space just by existing. Everything about him screamed alpha male, from his perfectly groomed beard to his expensive watch. "So, Brent," I said, leaning against the counter, "what brings you to our neck of the woods? Don't you live on the other side of town?" "Had some business nearby," he said, not missing a beat. "Thought I'd stop by and catch up with Kalia. We've been talking about old times." Old times. Right. The front door opened, and I heard the click of heels on hardwood. Kalia's mother, Bree, appeared in the kitchen doorway. She took one look at me, and her face soured like she'd bitten into a lemon. "Oh," she said. "You're back. Hello, Bree. Nice to see you, too. Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories." Bree Marrow, no relation to Brent, just an unfortunate coincidence of names, was 61 years old and had never liked me. Not from day one. I wasn't good enough for her daughter, wasn't successful enough, wasn't man enough. She'd made that clear at every family gathering for the past 8 years. She walked over to Brent and put her hand on his shoulder. "Brent was just telling us about his business expansion. 3 locations now. Very impressive." "Very," I agreed. "Nothing like a successful man, right, Bree?" She smiled, but it was sharp around the edges. It's refreshing to see someone who knows how to take charge. A real man who goes after what he wants. The words hung in the air like smoke. Kalia stared at her plate. Brent grinned. "Well," I said, "I should let you folks get back to your dinner. I've got some work to catch up on." I picked up my laptop bag and headed for my office. Behind me, I heard Bree say something about real men and providing for their families. I heard Kalaya laugh, a sound that used to make me happy. My office was at the back of the house, a converted bedroom with built-in shelves and a view of the backyard. I'd spent countless hours in here, building my business, working late into the night while Kalaya watched TV in the living room. I closed the door and sat down at my desk. Through the wall, I could hear them talking, laughing, having a wonderful time in my house, drinking my bourbon, eating food I'd paid for. I opened my laptop and logged into my banking app. Joint checking account, joint savings, joint credit cards. Everything we'd built together over 8 years of marriage. Everything I'd worked for while she managed HR at a mid-sized accounting firm and complained about her boss. The checking account showed a balance of $43,000. The savings account had another $67,000. Not rich, but comfortable. The kind of money that makes you feel secure, like you've got your life figured out. I opened a new browser tab and logged into my business account. Ventor Security Solutions had been good to me. I'd built it from nothing, one installation at a time, until I had 12 employees and contracts all over North Texas. It took me 20 minutes to transfer every penny from our joint accounts into my business account. Every penny I'd earned, every dollar I'd saved, every bit of financial security we'd built together. The credit cards were next. I called each company, explained that I suspected fraudulent activity, and had Kalaya removed as an authorized user. Just temporary, I told them, just until we could sort things out. By the time I finished, Kalaya had no access to our money, none at all. I leaned back in my chair and listened to the voices in my kitchen. They were still talking, still laughing. Brent was telling some story about a client at his gym. Kalia was giggling like a schoolgirl. My phone buzzed. A text from my cousin Tanner. "Hey man, heard you were out of town. Everything good?" I stared at the message. Tanner lived 2 streets over. How did he know I was out of town? I hadn't told him about the trip. Another buzz, this time from my neighbor, Detective Morales. "Saw some activity at your place tonight. You back in town?" I looked out my office window. Morales lived across the street. He was probably watching right now, wondering about the strange truck in my driveway. I typed back, "Just got home. Thanks for keeping an eye on things." His response came immediately. "Anytime, buddy. Place was quiet while you were gone. Well, mostly quiet." Mostly quiet. What did that mean? I heard chairs scraping in the kitchen, voices getting louder. They were wrapping up their little dinner party. I stayed in my office, listening to the sounds of my life being rearranged without my permission. The front door opened and closed. Brent's truck roared to life, all engine noise and testosterone. Bree's car started up a moment later, a more refined sound, but equally eager to leave. I waited 5 minutes, then walked back to the kitchen. Kalia was loading dishes into the dishwasher, moving with quick, nervous energy. She'd changed out of the blue dress into yoga pants and an old t-shirt. The transformation from dinner date to housewife was complete. "How was your trip?" she asked without looking at me. "Productive," I said. "Got the Henderson account locked up. Big installation, good money." "That's great, honey. I'm proud of you." She was proud of me. "Right." "So," I said, "Brent seems to be doing well." "Yeah, he's really turned his life around. The gym business is booming." "I'm sure it is." "And he just happened to be in the neighborhood?" Kalia's hand stilled on the dishes. "He had a meeting with a potential investor, some office complex nearby. He texted to see if I wanted to grab dinner." "And you said yes?" "Of course I said yes. He's an old friend, Rylan. We've known each other since college." "Right. Old friends." I walked to the counter where my bourbon sat, still open. The bottle was half empty. Either Brent had a serious drinking problem, or they'd been at it for a while. "Did you have a good time?" I asked. "It was nice to catch up. We don't see each other very often." That was interesting. According to my phone, Kalia had texted someone 47 times while I was in Austin. I'd assumed it was her sister or one of her girlfriends from work. "Well," I said, "I'm beat. Long drive. I think I'll turn in early." "I'll be up in a few minutes," she said. "Just finishing the dishes." I walked toward the bedroom, then stopped. "Oh, Kalia, you might want to check your credit card tomorrow. I think there might be an issue with the account." She looked up, confused. "What kind of issue?" "Probably nothing. Just check it, okay?" I left her standing in the kitchen, dish towel in her hands, worry creeping into her eyes. In the bedroom, I plugged in my phone and checked my messages. 3 missed calls from Tanner, 2 texts from numbers I didn't recognize, and 1 voicemail from Kalia's sister asking if everything was okay at home. I didn't return any of the calls. Instead, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Kalia move around the house. She was taking her time with those dishes. Around midnight, she finally came to bed. She slipped under the covers quietly, trying not to wake me. I kept my breathing steady, pretending to sleep. She lay there for a long time, not moving, not sleeping. I could feel the tension radiating from her body like heat from a fever. Finally, she whispered, "Rylan, are you awake?" I didn't answer. Let her wonder. Let her worry. Tomorrow, the real fun would begin. I woke up at 6:30 to the sound of Kalia's car starting in the driveway. She was leaving early for work, which wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the speed. She backed out fast enough to leave rubber on the concrete. My phone showed 4 missed calls from her, all between 6 and 6:15. No messages, just the calls. She was probably sitting in some gas station parking lot right now, staring at her credit card like it had personally betrayed her. I made coffee and checked my email. 3 new security consultations had come in overnight, including one from a divorce attorney who wanted cameras installed in his home office. The irony wasn't lost on me. My phone rang. Kalia. "Good morning, sweetheart," I said, keeping my voice cheerful. "Rylan, there's something wrong with my credit card. It was declined at the gas station." "That's weird. Did you call the company?" "They said I'm not an authorized user anymore. They said the primary cardholder requested my removal yesterday." I took a sip of coffee, savoring the moment. "That doesn't make any sense. I didn't call anyone." "Well, someone did, and our checking account is showing a 0 balance online." "Zero? That can't be right. We had over 40,000 in there." "I know what we had, Rylan. The money is gone." I could hear the panic in her voice, the edge that meant she was close to losing control. Good. "I'll call the bank when they open," I said. "Probably just a computer glitch. You know how these things are." "A computer glitch that removes me from our credit cards?" "Look, I'm sure there's an explanation. Try not to worry about it. I'll handle everything." "I can't even buy lunch today, Rylan. I have $12 in my purse." "I'll transfer some money to your personal account. Just give me a few hours to sort this out." I hung up before she could respond. Let her stew on that for a while. The doorbell rang at 8:15. I opened it to find Detective Morales standing on my porch, coffee cup in hand, looking like he had all the time in the world. "Morning, Rylan. Thought I'd check in, see how the trip went." "Not bad. Austin's always good for business." Morales nodded, but his eyes were scanning my face like he was reading a report. 20 years on the force had given him a talent for spotting lies. "Everything okay at home? Seemed like you had some company last night." Kalia had an old friend over for dinner. Nothing exciting. "Old friend with the big truck?" "That's the one. Brent something. Gym owner." Morales sipped his coffee. "Brent Marrow. Owns Apex Fitness on the north side. Got a reputation for being friendly with his female clients, if you know what I mean." I knew exactly what he meant. "Anyway," Morales continued, "just wanted to make sure everything was copacetic. You know how it is in the neighborhood. People talk." "What kind of talk?" "Oh, the usual. Mrs. Henderson saw the truck there a couple times while you were gone. Different days, different times. She mentioned it to my wife mentioned it to me. A couple times, different days." "I appreciate you looking out," I said. "Good to know the neighbors are paying attention." "Always. Well, I better get to work. You have a good day, Rylan." I watched him walk back across the street, noting how he glanced back at my house twice. Morales was a good cop and a decent neighbor. He was also telling me something without actually telling me something. Brent had been here more than once while I was gone. I went back to my office and pulled up the neighborhood app next door. Sure enough, there was a post from Mrs. Henderson. "Has anyone else noticed increased traffic on Maple Street? Large trucks, people coming and going at odd hours. Just want to make sure everyone's staying safe." 3 comments, all from neighbors I recognized, all mentioning the truck, all mentioning my address. My phone buzzed. Text from Tanner. "Need to talk? Can you meet for lunch?" I stared at the message. Tanner and I had been close growing up, but we drifted apart after he got married and had kids. He was the kind of guy who avoided conflict, who wanted everyone to get along. If he wanted to talk, someone had gotten to him. I texted back, "Sure. Noon at Murphy's Pub." Murphy's was a dive bar that served decent burgers and minded its own business, the kind of place where you could have a conversation without worrying about who might be listening. I spent the morning working on legitimate business, returning calls, and scheduling installations. Normal life, the kind of routine that keeps you grounded when everything else is falling apart. At 11:30, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Ventor Security, this is Rylan." "Mr. Ventor, this is Ms. Hodge from Hodge & Associates. I represent your wife in a legal matter. A lawyer. Kalia had hired a lawyer. What kind of legal matter? Mrs. Ventor is concerned about recent financial irregularities in your joint accounts. She's asked me to file an emergency motion to freeze all marital assets pending a full accounting. I almost laughed. Ms. Hodge, there are no irregularities. I moved money from our joint account to my business account. Money I earned. Without your wife's knowledge or consent? I don't need my wife's consent to move my own money. Money earned during the marriage is considered marital property in Texas, Mr. Ventor. I'm sure you're aware of that. I'm aware of a lot of things, Ms. Hodge, including the fact that my wife had her ex-boyfriend over for dinner while I was out of town. Multiple times, apparently. Silence on the other end of the line. I'm not sure what you're implying, she said finally. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. If Kalia wants to play legal games, she's welcome to try. But she might not like what comes out in discovery. I hung up and immediately called my own lawyer, Janet Patel. Janet was a shark in a business suit, the kind of attorney who smiled while she tore your throat out. Rylan, good to hear from you. What's the situation? I gave her the condensed version, the dinner party, the missing money, the lawyer's call. Sounds like you're ahead of the game, she said. But be careful. Moving marital assets can look vindictive if this goes to court. What if I can prove she's having an affair? That changes things. Texas is a no-fault divorce state, but adultery can still affect property division. Do you have proof? I'm working on it. Work fast. And Rylan, document everything. Every conversation, every text, every interaction. If this gets ugly, you'll need ammunition. I drove to Murphy's early, wanting to scope out the situation. Tanner was already there, sitting in a corner booth, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. He stood up when he saw me, all nervous energy and guilty smiles. Hey, cousin, thanks for meeting me. No problem. What's on your mind? We ordered burgers and beer, making small talk until the food arrived. Tanner kept checking his phone, glancing around the restaurant like he expected someone to jump out of the shadows. So, he said finally, I heard you and Kalia are having some problems. Where'd you hear that? Around. You know how it is. Family talks. Family talks. Right. What kind of problems are we supposedly having? Tanner shifted in his seat. Look, I don't want to get in the middle of anything, but Kalia called my wife this morning. She was pretty upset. About what? Money stuff. Said you'd cleaned out the bank accounts, cut off her credit cards. That doesn't sound like you, Rylan. I took a bite of my burger, chewing slowly. What else did she say? That you've been acting strange lately. Paranoid. She's worried about you. Worried about me. Yeah, she thinks maybe the stress of the business is getting to you. She mentioned that you accused her of having an affair. I set down my burger and looked at my cousin. Really looked at him. Tanner was a good guy, but he was weak, the kind of man who believed whatever story made him most comfortable. Tanner, let me ask you something. If your wife had her ex-boyfriend over for dinner while you were out of town, how would you feel about it? I don't know. I guess it would depend on the circumstances. What if she dressed up for it? Put on makeup, wore her best dress? What if they drank your bourbon and ate at your table? Tanner's face went pale. Did that really happen? It happened, and according to my neighbors, it happened more than once. But that doesn't necessarily mean... Doesn't mean what? That she's having an affair? Come on, Tanner. You're not that naive. He stared at his plate, not eating. So what are you going to do? I'm going to protect myself, and if that makes me the bad guy, so be it. Kalia's family, Rylan. We've known her for 8 years. She's not the type to? She's exactly the type. You just never wanted to see it. I pulled out my phone and showed him a screenshot of our joint checking account from yesterday morning. $43,000. Then I showed him today's balance. 0. I moved my money to my business account, I said. Money I earned from a business I built. If that makes me paranoid, then I guess I'm paranoid. Tanner stared at the screen. Jesus, Rylan. All of it? Every penny. And you know what? I'm just getting started. I paid for lunch and left Tanner sitting in the booth, staring at his untouched burger. He'd go home and tell his wife what I'd said. His wife would call Kalia, and Kalia would know that I wasn't backing down. On the drive home, I stopped at an electronics store and bought a dozen small cameras. Professional grade, wireless, nearly invisible when installed properly, the kind I used for clients who suspected their employees of stealing, or their spouses of cheating. Back at the house, I spent 2 hours installing cameras in strategic locations. The living room, kitchen, front porch, garage. Not the bedroom or bathroom. I wasn't a pervert, just a man who needed evidence. each camera connected to an app on my phone, recording continuously to cloud storage. Whatever happened in my house from now on, I'd have proof. At 4:30, Kalia's car pulled into the driveway. I watched from my office window as she sat behind the wheel for several minutes, talking on her phone. Animated conversation, lots of gesturing. She finally came inside, moving through the house like she was walking through a minefield. "Rylan," she called, "we need to talk." I found her in the kitchen, standing by the counter with her arms crossed. She'd been crying. Her makeup was smudged, her eyes red. "I talked to the bank," she said. "They confirmed that you moved all our money." "I moved my money." "Our money, Rylan. Money we saved together. Money I earned while you had dinner parties with your ex-boyfriend." Her face went white. "It wasn't like that." "What was it like?" "Brent is an old friend. We were just catching up. In your anniversary dress." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Caught. "How long has this been going on?" I asked. "Nothing is going on. You're being paranoid." "Am I? Then you won't mind if I check your phone." "My phone is private." "So is my bank account." We stared at each other across the kitchen, 8 years of marriage reduced to this moment, this standoff. "I want you to put the money back," she said finally. "I want a lot of things. Doesn't mean I'm going to get them." "I hired a lawyer." "I know, Ms. Hodge called me. Nice try, but you're going to need more than an emergency motion to get my money." Kalia's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and I saw something flicker across her face. Fear? Guilt? "I have to go," she said. "Where?" "Out. I need some air." She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. I followed, watching from the front porch as she backed out of the driveway with the same urgency she'd shown that morning. My phone chimed with a notification from the security app. Motion detected in the driveway. I pulled up the feed and watched Kalia's car disappear down the street. Then I switched to the kitchen camera and replayed the conversation we just had. Crystal clear video, perfect audio, evidence. I was just getting started. The next morning brought rain and revelations. I woke up to find 3 missed calls from Kalia's sister Jennifer and a text that made my coffee taste bitter. "Kalia stayed here last night. She's scared of you. What the hell is wrong with you?" Nothing was wrong with me. Everything was wrong with my marriage. I checked the security app while eating breakfast. No activity at the house after Kalia left yesterday. She hadn't come home, hadn't even tried. Instead, she'd run to her sister's place like a teenager escaping her parents. My phone rang. Unknown number again. Ventor Security. "Mr. Ventor, this is Heather Walsh. I work with Kalia at Morrison Accounting." Heather. I'd met her at a few office parties. Blonde, chatty, the kind of woman who knew everyone's business and shared it freely. "What can I do for you, Heather?" "I'm calling about Kalia. She's really upset about what's happening at home. She asked me to reach out, see if we could talk." "Talk about what?" "About working things out. She loves you, Rylan. She's just confused right now." "Confused? That was one word for it." "Did she tell you why she's confused?" "She mentioned that you've been having trust issues, that you accused her of something she didn't do." I almost laughed. What exactly did she say she didn't do? Heather's voice got careful, diplomatic. "Look, I don't want to get in the middle of a marital dispute. I just think you two should talk. Work things out like adults." "We tried talking. She hired a lawyer instead." "She's scared, Rylan. You cleaned out the bank accounts. You cut off her credit cards. How did you expect her to react?" "I expected her to explain why her ex-boyfriend was eating dinner at my table while I was out of town." Silence. "Heather, you still there?" I didn't know about that." "Funny, Kalia forgot to mention it when she was telling you how unreasonable I'm being." I hung up and immediately called Janet Patel. "The wife's friends are making contact," I told her, trying to play mediator. "That's normal. They're testing the waters, seeing if you'll back down. What did you tell them?" "The truth, that she had her ex-boyfriend over for dinner while I was gone." "Good. Let them know you're not backing down. But be careful about the financial stuff. Moving money is one thing, but if you leave her completely destitute, it could backfire." "She's not destitute. She has a job." "A job that pays $42,000 a year. You make 3 times that. A judge might see the financial cutoff as vindictive." I understood the warning, but I wasn't ready to give Kalia access to money she could use against me. Not yet. After the call, I drove to my office. The real one, not the home office. Ventor Security Solutions occupied a small building in a strip mall. Nothing fancy, but professional. My assistant Maya was already there, working through the morning appointments. "Morning, boss. The Hendersons called about their installation. They want to add cameras to the backyard." Maya was 26. sharp as a tack, and completely professional. She'd been with me for 3 years and knew the business inside and out. Schedule them for next week, I said. And Maya, I might need you to handle more of the day-to-day stuff for a while. I'm dealing with some personal issues. She nodded without asking questions. That was one of the things I liked about her. She minded her own business. I spent the morning reviewing contracts and checking on job sites, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy. But my mind kept drifting back to the security footage from my house, to Kalaya's guilty face when I'd asked about her phone. Around noon, Maya knocked on my office door. "There's a man here to see you. Says his name is Brent Marrow." Speak of the devil. "Send him in." Brent walked into my office like he owned it, all swagger and false confidence. He'd dressed up for the occasion, khakis and a polo shirt instead of gym clothes, but he still looked like exactly what he was, a muscle-bound narcissist who thought the world owed him something. "Rylan, good to see you again. Nice place you got here." "Thanks. What can I do for you?" He sat down without being invited, spreading his legs wide in that alpha male pose that was supposed to intimidate me. Instead, it just made him look like he needed to use the bathroom. "I think you know why I'm here. This thing with Kalia, it's gotten out of hand." "What thing with Kalia?" "Come on, man. We're both adults here. You're upset about the other night, I get it. But you're taking it out on the wrong person." I leaned back in my chair, studying him. "Enlighten me." "Kalia's a good woman. She doesn't deserve what you're putting her through. Cutting off her money, making her hire lawyers. That's not how a real man handles his problems." A real man, just like Bree had said. And how would a real man handle it? He'd talk to the guy who's actually responsible, man to man. Responsible for what? Brent's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to people making him spell things out. For crossing a line, for spending time with another man's wife. "So you admit you crossed a line?" "I admit I should have been more careful, should have considered how it might look." "How it might look? Not how it was, just how it looked." "Tell me something, Brent. How many times were you at my house while I was gone?" His eyes shifted slightly. "Just the once. The night you came home." "That's interesting. Because my neighbors seem to think it was more than once." "Your neighbors are mistaken." "Are they? Because I've got security cameras now. If you show up at my house again, I'll know about it, and so will everyone else." Brent's face darkened. "You threatening me?" "I'm informing you. Stay away from my wife. Stay away from my house. Stay in your own lane." He stood up, all 6'3" of him, trying to use his size to intimidate me. I stayed seated, completely calm. "You're making a mistake, Rylan. Kalia's going to leave you. She's already halfway out the door. When she does, don't come crying to me." "I won't have to. She'll come crying to you. That's what she does, isn't it? Runs to other people when things get tough." Brent's hands clenched into fists. For a moment, I thought he might actually take a swing at me. Instead, he turned and walked toward the door. "This isn't over," he said. "Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet." After he left, I sat in my office for a long time, thinking about what he'd said. Kalia was halfway out the door. Maybe she was. Maybe she'd been planning this for months, working up the courage to leave, using Brent as her exit strategy. If that was the case, I was going to make sure she left with exactly what she deserved. Nothing. I spent the afternoon installing a new security system at a client's house, losing myself in the technical work. Running cable, mounting cameras, programming software. It was methodical, logical, controllable. Everything my personal life wasn't. When I got home around 6, Kalia's car was in the driveway. She was back, probably to get clothes or to try another round of negotiations. I found her in the bedroom, packing a suitcase. She looked up when I walked in, her face carefully neutral. "I'm getting some things," she said. "I'll be staying at Jennifer's for a while." "How long is a while?" "I don't know, until we figure this out." "What's to figure out? You had your ex-boyfriend over for dinner while I was gone. Multiple times, you lied about it. End of story." She stopped packing and turned to face me. "It wasn't multiple times. It was twice. And nothing happened?" "Twice." So she was admitting to more than the one time I'd caught them. "What did happen?" "We talked. About old times, about his business, about life. That's it. In your anniversary dress. It's just a dress, Rylan. It doesn't mean anything." "Everything means something. The dress, the makeup, the bourbon, the way you jumped when I walked in. All of it means something." Kalia sat down on the bed, suddenly looking exhausted. "I don't know how to do this anymore." "Do what?" Be married to someone who doesn't trust me, someone who thinks the worst of everything I do. I think what the evidence suggests. If you don't like my conclusions, maybe you should examine your behavior. My behavior? I had dinner with an old friend. That's not a crime. No, but adultery is grounds for divorce in Texas. Her head snapped up. I didn't commit adultery. Yet. The word hung between us like a blade. Kalia stared at me, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I saw real fear in her eyes. You're recording me, aren't you? She said quietly. That's why you're so calm. You think you're building a case. I didn't answer, which was answer enough. She finished packing in silence, throwing clothes into the suitcase without bothering to fold them. When she was done, she stood by the door, looking back at the bedroom we'd shared for 8 years. I loved you, she said. I want you to know that. Whatever happens next, I did love you. Loved, past tense. But not enough to stay faithful. I was faithful. I am faithful. Keep telling yourself that. Maybe eventually you'll believe it. She left without another word. I watched from the window as she loaded her suitcase into the car, as she backed out of the driveway, as she disappeared down the street. Then I pulled out my phone and checked the security app. Every word of our conversation was recorded in crystal clear digital audio. Every expression on her face captured in high-definition video. Evidence. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Brent. We need to talk. I deleted the message without responding. We'd already talked. Now it was time for action. I opened my laptop and logged into the neighborhood app next door. Mrs. Henderson's post about suspicious activity had generated quite a discussion. 15 comments now, all speculating about the truck, the late-night visits, the unusual activity on Maple Street. I added my own comment. Thanks for keeping an eye on things while I was out of town. Turns out the truck belonged to my wife's ex-boyfriend. Apparently they had a lot to catch up on. I posted it and closed the laptop. By tomorrow morning, the entire neighborhood would know, and by tomorrow afternoon, so would everyone else. The gloves were off. Friday morning arrived with a symphony of notifications. My phone had been buzzing all night with comments, messages, and friend requests from neighbors I barely knew. My Nextdoor post had exploded into a full-blown neighborhood scandal. Mrs. Henderson had commented 3 times, each message longer and more indignant than the last. Detective Morales had sent a private message. Might want to dial it back a notch, buddy. The whole street's talking. But the most interesting response came from someone named Derek Paulson. Dude, you need to chill. Brent's a good guy. Maybe you should look at why your wife needed a friend in the first place. Derek Paulson. I didn't know the name, but a quick social media search revealed everything I needed to know. Mid-30s, worked construction, frequent visitor to Apex Fitness, one of Brent's gym buddies, probably sent to do reconnaissance. I was having my morning coffee when Maya called. Boss, there's a situation at the office. Someone spray-painted the front window. What did they write? Just the word liar in red paint. Should I call the police? No, don't call the police. Call our insurance company and get it cleaned up. And Maya? Install a camera pointed at the parking lot. Looks like things are about to get interesting. I drove to the office to assess the damage. The word was painted in sloppy letters across the front window, dripping like something from a horror movie. Subtle. While I waited for the cleanup crew, I reviewed the security footage from my house. Kalia hadn't come home last night, but someone else had. At 2:47 a.m., a dark sedan had cruised slowly past the house, pausing at the end of the driveway before moving on. License plate was too dark to read, but the car looked like Brent's backup vehicle, a black BMW he kept parked behind the gym. My phone rang. Janet Patel. Rylan, I just got a call from opposing counsel. They're filing a restraining order, claiming you're harassing your wife through social media. I made one post on a neighborhood app. One post that's been shared 47 times and generated over 100 comments. They're calling it public humiliation and emotional distress. What about her emotional distress? What about having her boyfriend over while I was gone? That's not illegal, Rylan. Posting about it online might be, depending on how the judge interprets it. I understood the warning, but I wasn't about to back down now. When's the hearing? Monday morning. And Rylan, delete the post. Now, before it gets worse. I hung up and immediately logged into Nextdoor. The post had indeed been shared dozens of times, spreading beyond our neighborhood into adjacent communities. The comments ranged from supportive to savage, with neighbors taking sides like it was a sporting event. But I didn't delete it. Instead, I added an update. For those asking for more details, I have security footage of the dinner parties. happy to share with anyone interested in the truth. I didn't actually plan to share the footage. That would be crossing a legal line. But the threat was enough. Within an hour, 3 more neighbors had messaged me privately, offering support and sharing their own suspicions about Kalaya and Brent. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who'd noticed their friendship. Around noon, I got a call from an unexpected source. Ms. Price, the manager of the Fairmont Hotel downtown. Mr. Ventor, I have an unusual situation. Someone made a reservation using your credit card for this weekend, but the name on the reservation doesn't match the card. What name? Brent Marrow. The reservation is for our executive suite Friday and Saturday night. The card was charged yesterday. My credit card. The one Kalia still had access to through her phone's payment app. Ms. Price, that's definitely fraud. I didn't authorize any charges, and I don't know anyone named Brent Marrow. Would you like me to cancel the reservation? Actually, no. Transfer it to my name instead, and upgrade it to the penthouse suite. I think I'll be needing it this weekend. After I hung up, I sat in my office chair, staring at the ceiling. They'd planned a romantic weekend getaway using my money. The sheer audacity was almost impressive, but 2 could play that game. I called Maya into my office. I need you to handle things here for the rest of the day. Family emergency. Everything okay? It will be. I drove home and packed an overnight bag, then made a few strategic phone calls. The first was to a private investigator I'd worked with on insurance cases. The second was to a photographer who specialized in corporate events. By 4 o'clock, everything was in place. The Fairmont Hotel was old-school elegant, the kind of place where politicians made deals and business executives celebrated mergers. I'd stayed there once before, for a security conference, and remembered the layout well. I checked in at the front desk, making small talk with Ms. Price about the confusion with the reservation. She was professional but clearly curious about the situation. Your suite is ready, Mr. Ventor. Top floor, corner unit, excellent view of the city. Perfect. And Ms. Price? I'm expecting some friends to join me later. If anyone asks for Brent Marrow, please direct them to my suite. Her eyebrows rose slightly, but she nodded. Of course, sir. I took the elevator to the penthouse, a sprawling suite with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view that stretched from downtown to the suburbs. The living room was bigger than most people's apartments, with a full bar and a dining table that could seat 12. I ordered room service, champagne, chocolate-covered strawberries, the full romantic package, and settled in to wait. They arrived at 7:30. I watched from the window as Brent's truck pulled into the valet area, as he handed his keys to the attendant with the casual confidence of a man who thought he was about to get away with something. Kalaya got out of the passenger side, wearing a black dress I'd never seen before. New outfit for a new relationship. She looked nervous, glancing around the lobby like she expected to see someone she knew. They would, soon enough. My phone buzzed with a text from the private investigator. In position. Camera ready. I opened the champagne and poured myself a glass, then walked to the suite's front door and opened it wide. The hallway was empty, but I could hear the elevator rising. The doors opened, and there they were. Kalaya saw me first, her face going white as paper. Brent was looking at his phone, probably checking the room number, and didn't notice until Kalaya grabbed his arm. Surprise, I said, raising my champagne glass in a mock toast. Brent's head snapped up, his expression shifting from confusion to anger in about 2 seconds. What the hell are you doing here? I should ask you the same question. This is my suite, paid for with my credit card. Kalia found her voice. Rylan, this isn't what it looks like. Really? What does it look like? We can explain, she said, but her voice was shaking. I'm sure you can. Why don't you come in and we'll discuss it over champagne? Brent stepped forward, all aggression and wounded pride. You set this up. You knew we were coming. I knew someone was using my credit card fraudulently. I just wanted to see who. This is harassment, Kalia said. I'm calling my lawyer. Good idea. While you're at it, call the police. I'm sure they'll be interested in the credit card fraud. The elevator dinged behind them, and the doors opened to reveal a woman I'd never seen before. Mid-30s, athletic build, blonde hair, and a face that was rapidly shifting from confused to furious. Brent, she said, what the hell is going on? Brent turned around, and I saw something I'd never seen before, genuine fear in his eyes. Cassandra, what are you doing here? You told me you were working late tonight. Then Derek posted a picture on Instagram of you getting into your truck all dressed up. Cassandra, the girlfriend Brent had forgotten to mention. I stepped back into the suite, gesturing for everyone to come in. Please don't let me interrupt. This is just getting interesting. Cassandra pushed past Brent and Kalaya, her eyes taking in the romantic setup, the champagne, the chocolate-covered strawberries. Are you kidding me right now? She said, her voice rising. You're cheating on me with a married woman? It's not like that, Brent said, but he was backing toward the door. Then what is it like? Cassandra demanded. Because it looks like you planned a romantic weekend with someone else's wife. Kalia tried to speak up. We're just friends. Friends don't book hotel suites together, Cassandra shot back, and they don't wear new dresses for casual hangouts. I pulled out my phone and started recording. This was better than anything I could have planned. Brent, I said conversationally, you want to tell Cassandra about all those dinner parties at my house, or should I? His face went red. Shut up, Rylan. Dinner parties? Cassandra turned to Kalia. You've been having dinner parties? It wasn't like that, Kalia said again, but the words sounded hollow even to her. What was it like? I asked. Because from where I stood, it looked like my wife was playing house with her ex-boyfriend while I was out of town earning money to pay for weekends like this. Cassandra slapped Brent. Hard. The sound echoed through the suite like a gunshot. 3 years, she said. 3 years I wasted on you. She stormed out, leaving the three of us in uncomfortable silence. Brent rubbed his cheek, glaring at me like this was somehow my fault. You planned this, he said. I planned to catch whoever was using my credit card. The rest was just a bonus. Kalia was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Rylan, please? Can we talk privately? We've done enough talking. You made your choice when you booked this room. I didn't book it. Brent did. With your phone? Using my credit card information. She had no answer for that. Hotel security arrived then, summoned by the noise and Cassandra's dramatic exit. 2 guards in suits, polite but firm. Is there a problem here? The older one asked. Just a misunderstanding, I said. Mr. Marrow and his friend were leaving. Brent looked like he wanted to argue, but Kalia grabbed his arm. Let's go, she said quietly. They left without another word, Kalia's new dress rustling as she hurried toward the elevator. I watched them go, then turned to the security guards. Sorry for the disturbance. Family drama. No problem, sir. Happens more than you'd think. After they left, I walked to the window and looked out at the city lights. My phone was full of photos and video from the confrontation, evidence that would be very useful in divorce proceedings. But more importantly, I'd expose them. Not just to me, but to Cassandra, to hotel security, to anyone who might have been watching. Their secret was out, their relationship damaged beyond repair. I poured another glass of champagne and called room service to cancel the romantic dinner. I wouldn't be needing it after all. My phone buzzed with a text from the private investigator. Got everything on camera. You want the full package or just the highlights? Full package, I replied, and make copies. I spent the night in the penthouse suite, alone but not lonely. For the first time in weeks, I slept well. Monday morning's restraining order hearing was held in a courthouse that smelled like floor wax and broken dreams. I sat next to Janet Patel at the plaintiff's table, watching Kalia and her lawyer whisper frantically at the defendant's table. Ms. Hodge looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Kalia looked like she hadn't slept in days. Judge Patricia Reeves was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd been handling family court for 20 years. She'd seen every sob story, every manipulation, every dirty trick in the book. Ms. Hodge, she said, your client is seeking a restraining order based on alleged harassment via social media. Please present your case. Ms. Hodge stood up, straightening her jacket. Your Honor, Mr. Venter has engaged in a pattern of harassment designed to humiliate and intimidate my client. He posted private details of their marriage on a public forum, resulting in widespread community gossip and emotional distress. What kind of private details? He publicly accused Mrs. Ventor of infidelity, sharing intimate details of their personal life with neighbors and strangers. Judge Reeves looked at me. Mr. Ventor, did you post about your wife's alleged infidelity on social media? I stood up. I posted factual information about events that occurred in my own home, Your Honor. My wife had her ex-boyfriend over for dinner while I was out of town. Multiple times. I simply informed my neighbors of this fact. Multiple times? The judge looked at Kalia. Mrs. Ventor, is that accurate? Kalia's face flushed. It was just dinner. Nothing inappropriate happened. How many times? Twice. But we're just friends. Friends who book hotel rooms together, I said. Mr. Ventor, Judge Reeves warned, you'll have your turn to speak. Janet stood up. Your Honor, if I may present evidence of Mrs. Ventor's relationship with Mr. Marrow? Proceed. Janet walked to the evidence table and picked up a tablet. These are security camera recordings from Mr. Ventor's home, showing Mrs. Ventor and Mr. Marrow on 2 separate occasions while Mr. Ventor was traveling for business. She played the first video on the courtroom's display screen. There was Kalia in her blue anniversary dress, laughing at something Brent had said. There was Brent with his feet up on my chair, drinking my bourbon like he owned the place. The second video was even more damaging. Kalia and Brent in the kitchen after I'd gone to my office, standing close together, his hand on her waist, her head on his shoulder. Your Honor, Janet continued, this is hardly the behavior of casual friends. Ms. Hodge objected. These recordings were made without my client's knowledge or consent. In Mr. Ventor's own home, Janet replied, which he has every right to monitor. Judge Reeves studied the videos, her expression unreadable. Mrs. Ventor, this appears to show intimate behavior with Mr. Marrow. We hugged goodbye, that's all. For 37 seconds, I said. I timed it. The judge looked at me sharply. Mr. Ventor, one more outburst and I'll hold you in contempt. Janet continued her presentation, showing the hotel receipts, the credit card charges, photos from the confrontation at the Fairmont. By the time she finished, Kalia was crying and Ms. Hodge looked defeated. Your Honor, Ms. Hodge said weakly, regardless of my client's actions, Mr. Ventor's public humiliation campaign constitutes harassment. Ms. Patel, how do you respond? Mr. Ventor made one post on a neighborhood app, stating facts about events in his own home. He has a right to inform his community about suspicious activity, especially when that activity involves his own property and marriage. Judge Reeves was quiet for a long moment, reviewing the evidence. Finally, she looked up. Mrs. Ventor, I'm going to be blunt with you. The evidence suggests you were having an affair, or at minimum an inappropriate relationship, with Mr. Marrow. You used your husband's credit card to book a hotel room with this man. Under these circumstances, your husband's single social media post hardly constitutes harassment. But, Your Honor, Ms. Hodge started, I'm not finished. Mrs. Ventor, if you were unhappy in your marriage, the appropriate response was counseling or divorce proceedings, not entertaining other men in your husband's home. Your request for a restraining order is denied. Kalia sobbed openly. Ms. Hodge gathered her papers with sharp, angry movements. Furthermore, Judge Reeves continued, I'm ordering both parties to attend mediation before any divorce proceedings begin. Perhaps you can work out your differences without further litigation. The gavel came down with a sharp crack. Case dismissed. In the hallway outside the courtroom, Kalia tried to approach me. Rylan, please, can we talk? Talk to my lawyer, I said, walking away. But she followed me, her heels clicking on the marble floor. I made mistakes, I know that, but we can fix this. I stopped and turned around. Fix what? Your affair? Your lies? The fact that you used my credit card to book a hotel room with another man? It wasn't an affair. You never what? Never had romantic dinners while I was gone? Never planned secret weekends? Never let him put his hands on you in my kitchen? She had no answer. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to move out of my house permanently. You're going to file for divorce and accept whatever settlement I'm willing to offer, and you're going to stay away from me and my property. And if I don't? Then I release the hotel video to your employer, your family, and everyone else who might be interested. How do you think Morrison Accounting will feel about their HR manager's extracurricular activities? Her face went white. You wouldn't. Try me. I left her standing in the courthouse hallway, crying into her hands. That afternoon, I got a call from Derek Paulson, Brent's gym buddy who'd defended him on Nextdoor. You need to back off, he said without preamble. Excuse me? This thing with Brent and Kalia, you're taking it too far. How am I taking it too far? The hotel thing, setting them up like that. It was vindictive. It was justice. They used my credit card to book a room. That's fraud. Come on, man. Kalia probably just made a mistake with the payment method. I almost laughed. A mistake? She deliberately used my card to fund her affair. It's not an affair if they didn't what? Have intercourse? Is that your definition of fidelity? Because mine includes not planning romantic weekends with other men? Derek was quiet for a moment. Brent's a good guy. He doesn't deserve what you're doing to him. What am I doing to him? Destroying his relationship, humiliating him in public. Cassandra broke up with him because of you. Cassandra broke up with him because he was cheating on her, with my wife. They're friends, that's all. Friends don't book hotel suites together, Derek. Friends don't have intimate dinners while the husband is out of town. Their friends don't put their hands on each other in other people's kitchens. You don't know what you saw. I know exactly what I saw, and so does everyone else, thanks to the security footage. Derek's voice got harder. You better watch yourself, Rylan. Brent's got friends. People who don't like seeing him get screwed over. Is that a threat? It's a warning. Back off, or things might get unpleasant. I hung up and immediately called Detective Morales. I just got a threatening phone call, I told him. Derek Paulson, friend of Brent Marrow. He suggested I might face consequences if I don't back down from my divorce proceedings. What kind of consequences? He was vague, but the implication was clear. Physical intimidation. You want to file a report? Not yet. Just wanted you to know, in case something happens. I'll keep an eye out. And Rylan, be careful. Divorce brings out the worst in people. That evening, I was working in my home office when the security system alerted me to motion in the driveway. I pulled up the camera feed and saw Brent's truck parked at the end of my driveway, engine running, headlights off. He sat there for 10 minutes, just watching the house. Then he drove away. I saved the footage and added it to my growing collection of evidence. Brent was escalating, getting desperate. That made him dangerous, but it also made him predictable. I spent the rest of the evening planning my next move. If Brent wanted to play intimidation games, I was happy to oblige. But I was going to play by my rules, not his. By midnight, I had everything arranged. Tomorrow would be the final confrontation, the end of this whole sordid mess. One way or another, it would all be over soon. Tuesday brought thunderstorms and the kind of humid heat that made everything stick to your skin. I woke up to 17 missed calls and a voicemail from Kalia that was mostly sobbing with a few coherent words mixed in. Please, talk, and sorry. Repeated over and over. I deleted it without listening to the whole thing. Maya called at 8:30. Boss, someone broke into the office last night. They didn't take anything, just trashed the place. Turned over desks, scattered papers everywhere. Any security footage? The cameras were spray-painted black. Professional job. Professional. That meant Brent had hired help, probably Derek and some other gym rats who thought they were tough guys. Call the insurance company, I told Maya, and take the day off. I'll handle the cleanup. But I wasn't going to the office. I had other plans. I drove to Apex Fitness instead, Brent's gym on the north side of town. It was one of those places that catered to serious lifters, all black iron and motivational posters. The kind of place where men went to prove their masculinity by picking up heavy things and putting them down again. Brent was behind the front desk talking to a client about protein supplements. He looked up when I walked in, his face shifting from surprise to anger. You've got some nerve coming here, he said. We need to talk. I've got nothing to say to you. That's funny, because your friend Derek had plenty to say yesterday, something about consequences if I didn't back down. Brent's jaw tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't, just like you don't know anything about someone trashing my office last night. Your office got trashed? That's terrible. Maybe you should be more careful about who you make enemies with. I smiled. Oh, I'm very careful about my enemies, Brent. I study them. I learn their weaknesses. I find out what they value most. What's that supposed to mean? Instead of answering, I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo. It was a screenshot from the gym's business registration, showing that Apex Fitness was jointly owned by Brent and his brother Marcus. Nice business you've got here, I said. Shame if something happened to it. You threatening me. Just making conversation. Did you know that several of your female clients have been posting complaints online? Something about inappropriate behavior from the owner? Brent's face went pale. That's not true. Maybe not. But in today's social media world, truth is less important than perception. One viral post about a gym owner who preys on married women, and suddenly membership starts dropping off. You wouldn't dare. Wouldn't I? You trashed my office, Brent. You threatened me through your friend Derek. You had an affair with my wife. What exactly do you think I wouldn't dare do? I walked closer to the front desk, lowering my voice so the other gym members couldn't hear. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay away from Kalia. You're going to stop driving by my house. You're going to call off your friends and leave me alone. If you don't, I'm going to destroy everything you've built here. You can't prove I did anything. I don't have to prove it. I just have to create reasonable doubt about your character. How many female clients do you think will feel comfortable working out here once word gets around about your extracurricular activities? Brent stood up, all 6'3" of him, trying to intimidate me with his size. But I'd been expecting this. You're making a big mistake, he said. The only mistake I made was trusting my wife, but I'm correcting that now. I turned to leave, then paused at the door. Oh, and Brent, I've got security cameras at my house now. If you or any of your friends show up there again, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. I left him standing behind the counter, rage and fear warring on his face. The rest of the day was spent setting up the final phase of my plan. I called in favors, made arrangements, and prepared for what I knew was coming. Because Brent wasn't the type to back down from a threat. He was the type to escalate, to prove his masculinity by doing something stupid and aggressive. I was counting on it. That evening, I was in my kitchen making dinner when the security system chimed. Motion detected at the front door. I pulled up the camera feed and saw exactly what I'd been expecting. Kalia, Brent, and Bree standing on my front porch. Kalia had a key in her hand, probably planning to let them all in for a confrontation. But I'd changed the locks that morning. I watched them try the key several times before Bree started pounding on the door. "Rylan!" she shouted. "Open this door right now! We need to talk!" I activated the intercom system I'd installed as part of the security upgrade. "This is private property," I said, my voice broadcasting from speakers mounted near the door. "You're trespassing." "This is my daughter's house, too," Bree shot back. "Not anymore. Kalia moved out, remember?" Brent stepped forward, looking directly at the camera. "Stop hiding behind your gadgets and face me like a man." "I'm not hiding. I'm protecting my property from intruders." "Let us in, Rylan," Kalia said. "We just want to talk." "We talked in court yesterday. The judge made her position clear." Through the camera, I could see them exchanging glances, trying to decide what to do next. Then Brent walked around to the side of the house, probably looking for another way in. He found the kitchen window, which I'd left unlocked on purpose. I watched him climb through, dropping into my kitchen with a thud. A moment later, he opened the front door for Kalia and Bree. "Perfect," I said out loud. They were all inside now, standing in my foyer, looking around like they owned the place. "Rylan," Bree called out. "Where are you?" I was in my office, watching them on multiple camera feeds, recording everything: breaking and entering, trespassing, criminal mischief. I had enough evidence to put them all in prison if I wanted to, but I had something better in mind. I activated the house's smart home system, something I'd been upgrading for months. Every light in the house suddenly blazed to life. The stereo system came on at full volume, playing Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries. The sprinkler system activated, soaking the front yard and anyone standing near the windows. And then the piece de resistance, the security system's voice announcement feature, broadcasting my recorded message through speakers in every room. "Welcome to the home of Rylan Ventor." My voice boomed throughout the house. "You are trespassing on private property. This intrusion is being recorded and broadcast live to the Neighborhood Watch Network. Smile for the cameras." The front yard spotlights came on, bright as stadium lights, illuminating everything in harsh white light. I could see neighbors coming out of their houses, attracted by the noise and spectacle. Through the kitchen camera, I watched Kalia, Brent, and Bree stumbling around in confusion, trying to figure out what was happening. "Turn it off," Bree shouted. "I can't," Kalia yelled back. "It's all automated." Brent was looking for the main electrical panel, probably planning to cut the power. But I'd moved it to a locked closet months ago, my recorded voice continued. "The individuals currently in this home are Kalia Ventor, Brent Marrow, and Bree Ventor. They entered illegally through a kitchen window. This is their second recorded attempt at harassment and intimidation." I switched to the live microphone. "You wanted to talk?" I said, my voice echoing through the house. "Let's talk. Tell the neighborhood why you're really here." "We just want to work things out," Kalia said, looking up at the ceiling like she was talking to God. "Work what out? Your affair, your lies, the fact that you used my credit card to book hotel rooms with your boyfriend?" Through the front window camera, I could see a crowd gathering. Mrs. Henderson was there with her phone out, recording everything. Detective Morales was walking across the street, probably to make sure things didn't get out of hand. "This is insane," Brent said. "You're insane." "I'm protecting my property from intruders. You broke into my house, Brent. That's a felony." "We didn't break in. Kalia has a right to be here." "Kalia moved out. She has no right to be here without permission." The crowd outside was growing. I could see people pointing at the house, talking among themselves, taking pictures and videos with their phones. "You're humiliating us," Kalia said, tears in her voice. "You humiliated yourselves. I'm just providing the venue." Bree tried a different approach. "Rylan, honey, this has gone far enough. You've made your point. Can we please just sit down and talk like adults?" "Adults don't have affairs, Bree. Adults don't break into other people's houses. Adults don't threaten and intimidate when they don't get their way." "Nobody threatened you," Brent said. "Really? What would you call Derek's phone call yesterday? What about trashing my office?" "I don't know what you're talking about." I switched the display screens throughout the house to show the security footage from my office, Derek and two other men spray painting the cameras, then systematically destroying everything inside. "Recognize anyone?" I asked. Brent's face went white. He hadn't expected me to have external cameras. The front door opened and Detective Morales walked in, badge visible, hand resting on his service weapon. "Evening, folks. Heard there might be a disturbance." "They broke in through the kitchen window," I said through the intercom. "I have it all on video." "That true?" Morales asked. Kalia started to answer, but Brent cut her off. "We were invited." "By who?" By Kalia. It's her house, too." "Actually," Morales said, "according to the restraining order hearing yesterday, Mrs. Ventor moved out voluntarily. This is Mr. Ventor's sole residence now." I could see the defeat in their faces as the reality sank in. They'd overplayed their hand, and now they were facing criminal charges. "Here's what's going to happen," Morales continued. "You're all going to leave quietly and immediately. Mr. Ventor, are you willing to let this slide without pressing charges?" I pretended to consider it. "This time, but if they come back, I want them arrested." "Fair enough. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard the man. Time to go." They filed out through the front door, past the crowd of neighbors, past the cameras and phones recording their humiliation. Bree was crying. Kalia looked like she wanted to disappear. Brent was trying to maintain some dignity, but failing miserably. I watched them get into their cars and drive away, probably for the last time. The crowd began to disperse, the show over. I turned off the lights and the music, let the sprinklers shut down automatically. My phone was buzzing with notifications, texts, calls, social media mentions. The whole confrontation had been recorded and shared dozens of times already. By morning, it would be all over the internet. I poured myself a bourbon, my bourbon in my house, sitting in my chair, and reviewed the security footage one more time. It was over. Finally, completely, definitively over. They'd lost everything, their dignity, their relationship, their reputations. Kalia would have to find a new place to live, probably a new job once the videos made their way to her employer. Brent would have to rebuild his business from scratch, assuming he could salvage anything from the wreckage. And me? I had my house back, my money back, my life back. I raised my glass in a toast to the empty room. "Next time," I said out loud, "I'm eating out." Thunder crashed outside, and the rain began to fall harder, washing away the last traces of their presence from my property. The house was mine again, finally and completely mine, and that's exactly how I wanted it.